Good evening, this is Ruben Hoare Library Trustees meeting, June 6, 2019. Time is 7 p.m. and it is an open meeting.
Yes.
Okay, we have a quorum.
We do,
Okay.
yes.
In the absence of the chairman at the moment, I'll begin the meeting, so we'll be all caught up by the time he comes. So, we have public participation tonight. Park and Rec is here. Oh, good.
Okay.
Here's our chairman.
Is there any correspondence?
No.
No correspondence.
Your clock in the library is slow.
Or blame somebody
Okay.
else, yeah.
No, I left it. I was helping hang artwork.
Oh,
Okay, so,
we've got minutes.
we just finished correspondence. You want to do the meeting, the minutes, and go to
Sure.
participation? Okay, so we're here to approve the minutes of April 23rd, 2019. And I see a notice that we're supposed to change some wording according to the report about the PMBC.
I believe that should be May 23rd, not April 23rd. Am I
Okay,
incorrect?
You are absolutely
Sorry,
correct.
it's May 23rd.
May 23rd. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll change that.
Yeah, and I had communicated on Mark's request to, is it Steve Moore?
Yes.
And he had come back with a recommendation for a slight wording change. Let me find it. So he says, just a second.
This is on PMBC.
He says, he says, in reviewing the minutes, I noticed that they indicate the library signed the contract for schematic design. In reviewing the contract, it only included services for conceptual design, which precedes schematic. Although J&R has nearly completed the schematic design, they have not to date submitted their proposal for schematic design development, contract documents, nor contract administration. I have requested the updated proposal from J&R a number of times and will request again today. I have an invoice from J&R for schematic design for $22,000 and have advised Phil I cannot recommend approval without revised contract pending submission of his updated proposal. Anyhow, I suggest the minutes be changed to reflect conceptual in lieu of schematic
So
design.
that's the word on the top of page 3. That's not the motion, that's just that we said.
The wording was in the original.
Right.
That
Okay,
which
so
Trustees
was,
signed the schematic phase design, and it's the conceptual.
All right,
phase.
so-
right,
Okay.
That's
yes,
what you're
conceptual in lieu
Changing
of the
that to
schematic.
conceptual.
Yeah. So he just had that note before we approved the minutes from that date, that we would change that.
But is Steve okay with the motion that is written here on page 3? Ms. Asselin moves that the trustees vote to reassign the Johnson Roberts contract back to PNBC for oversights and payments. Is he okay with
I'm
that
assuming
wording?
that's fine, because he didn't specify
He didn't say
otherwise.
that,
He
so-
just said
Okay.
his only concern was conceptual as
Okay.
opposed to schematic, so.
Do we have, so we have to make a motion to change the
So we
wording?
have to, so just accept the minutes as amended.
As amended, yeah.
Okay, so I'll take a motion on the minutes.
I'll move to accept the minutes from May 23rd as amended. Did we look at the rest of it? Like the rest needs to be
I will second it.
updated?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. All yours.
Okay, good, sorry. Public participation.
Hello.
Hello.
Is it okay if I sit here, or do you want me to move
Oh,
over?
come on up.
Come on up.
Be closer.
How are you guys?
Good.
I think we've all met, but my name is Tim Mahowski. I'm the Assistant Director of Park and Recreation. I know that you had Alicia listed today, but she's actually out of the country, so you get me tonight.
Okay.
The reason for my visit tonight is to discuss and answer any questions that the board might have about the special town meeting that we have upcoming on June 26th in regards to our meeting that we had with the Board of Selectmen the other night. Has everyone had the opportunity to watch or are you knowledgeable about the article that was put forth by Ms. Armento?
I read the article.
I've read the article, but I haven't seen the meeting.
I haven't seen the
I didn't
meeting.
watch the meeting,
And
but
I did not watch the
Why don't you,
video.
why don't you backfill us? just so
Sure.
that
So,
we're on the same page.
there's a voter petition that was put in front of the Board of Selectmen, which had 200 signatures and prompted us to have a special town meeting. Specifically, there is a request to change the town bylaws to the following. The Border Committee with care, custody, and control of any town-owned property, including without limitation any park, playground, public building, schoolhouse, school grounds, or parking lot, may rent or allow the use of town-owned property to members of the public, individuals, and groups, both profit and nonprofit, for reasonable uses at reasonable times. So I broke it down sentence by sentence when we were in the selectmen meeting. So the first part of this is kind of how we all operate now. We decide when we want to rent, if we want to allow somebody just to use the building, and for what purpose, and that's obviously up to the board in control. The second piece to this is the Border Committee with care, custody, control of town-owned property will grant priority in rental use of town-owned property to nonprofit organizations, and particularly encourage the use of town-owned property by community groups, and particularly those groups who serve the needs of youth in the region. So one of the things that we think that is an issue with this in particular is it puts nonprofit groups, gives them precedent over absolutely everyone, if you read it a certain way. So that means that for, if the Girl Scouts need at 307 tonight or whatever room, then they would really have a precedent over a board or committee versus a class or something that we might have. That's how Park and Rec in particular read through this. Third sentence is, yep.
So the girls, picking on the Girl Scouts here, if we're going to continue with that, the Girl Scouts wouldn't have priority over the town functions, right? Because it's a town office. The town gets the first dibs on their own building.
So that is how you interpret this new bylaw, because it says the Border Committee with care, custody, and control of the property will grant priority in rental use of town-owned property to nonprofit organizations.
Yes, but it doesn't mean that they get preference. So pick on the school then. You can't say that during the school hours a nonprofit can come and use the school building.
You're correct.
So there's no reason that the town can't say that we have priority on our own buildings, right? The school has priority on their own buildings. We have priority on our own buildings. And will is not a legal word, by the way, so it means.
Shall,
Yes.
is the legal word.
So, and that was the point that we're making, is it's very poorly written as far as the article is put front, and that, is this something that we actually want to put into our bylaws, being so, poorly written and left for interpretation. As far as the next statement was, the above provision shall apply to any schoolhouse, school grounds, to the extent that the school committee has delegated care, custody, or control to any town board or committee. That any event and program similar to park and recreation and community education offerings or events shall not be grounds to deny the use of rental of town property. So then this is very contradictory itself. So in that statement, it's saying that if an event is similar, it's not grounds for dismissal. But then it says, provided, however, that if the rental of a park, playground, public building, schoolhouse, school ground will not be allowed if it directly interferes with student activities, school-related functions, or park and rec education offering or events. So it's contradictory to itself in that final sentence. Basically what we're asking is for the support of the library board, such as the Board of Selectmen did the other night, to vote no support of the article that's being put in front of town meeting, specifically the one that I just read to you. It, in our opinion, sets a dangerous precedent to the ability for members, especially those who are out of town, and specifically this is something that's driven by an out-of-town businessman who's coming in and using one of our residents to start this petition. This is something that's been going on for quite a long time with PRCE, and in particular, not utilizing a certain tennis program. So that's basically what we're asking tonight. There were 200 signatures on the petition. The seniors in particular invited them to the Friends of meeting, where a number of those signatures came. There were seniors who spoke out in the Board of Selectmen meeting the other night, basically saying that they were sold a bad bill of goods, that they were lied to in the meeting, and that they didn't know what they were signing at the time. One thing in particular that was used as grounds for getting people to sign was the reference of the girls' coding class that you guys offer. So specifically, the verbiage that was used on the website was that not long ago, the public library offered a free girls' coding class that the rec department insisted stop in order to drive parents to register for the rec's paid class. At the time, we were actually running a coding class for boys and girls prior to the girls' coding class that the library was offering for free. When the girls had come over to the library side and done that coding class, we actually didn't have enough enrollment to keep the class going, so we actually stopped our programming, and that was kind of how that really played off. So I just wanted to kind of open it up to that. I feel, in the past 2 years, our two boards and our departments have had a really open line of communication. We've been, have a lot of mutually beneficial stuff going on, and this is definitely a time that we could definitely use your assistance in helping mitigate this.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
I do have one quick question. Doesn't each board, like the library, we set the policy for our rooms and who can use what?
Mhm.
Doesn't the school set its own policy for that too? This seems like this kind of is like a big umbrella that's trying to take everyone's individual policy and combine it and squeeze it into one thing.
Correct.
I'm not sure. I don't know. It all depends on how you read legalese, right?
Mhm.
I think it's saying that everyone has to have a policy, but I don't know that it says that everyone's policy has to be the same. Because it doesn't say what happens with, the library currently does not, we never rent the rooms.
Right,
We
or
never
have
charge for rooms,
for-profit.
and we
No.
don't use, we don't allow nonprofits to use the room.
Correct.
I don't know if this change says that we have to allow nonprofits or not, because it just says,
It just says any, and that's the thing, it covers any, if you read how it's written.
yeah, well, the fire department and the police station, I don't believe, are rented to for-profits either, are they? So,
I don't think that they stop anybody from using their community rooms if they're available.
do they rent them, or do they allow them to use them? I don't know what
I don't know what their
is.
policy is, yeah.
I don't know who's controlling that policy,
Yeah.
right? So,
Well, the program that's going on right now in the Cooper Room was done in the fire department's space last year because the Cooper Room was full on the date that we needed it. So, but I don't know that any rental was ever paid because it's a school function.
So it's
right?
not just rentals, it's any use. It's regardless of if they're just using it or renting it or anything. It's just saying that basically it covers, this bylaw would change for any, whatever it is, park, playground, schoolhouse, any government, town-owned property, regardless of who runs it.
Does Park and Rec, I'm at school late
Mhm.
many evenings, and it's filled with Park and Rec programs. Does Park and Rec pay the school for that, or is it just rooms available, come and use it? I don't
So-
know what the policy is.
So that's one of the things that's actually, if you go through this website that's attached to the petition. Park and Rec has an agreement called the Memorandum of Understanding.
Mhm.
That is strictly between Park and Recreation and the schools.
Okay.
That Memorandum of Understanding was created to say that we have use of school space in exchange for paying for the maintenance of the sports fields. Is how that works out.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Park and Rec
All right.
schedule, we do all the scheduling of the sports fields for the youth organizations, and we work with the highway department, who has our parks employees
Mhm.
under their privy to do all of the maintenance and fixing and painting and everything that happens. So we
Okay.
take care of all that. That was the initial thing in the MOU.
Okay.
The other piece of the MOU that is being convoluted in Mr. Lewis's explanation is that when the school had gotten rid of, disbanded the community education program, the director at the time, Kate, said, "Oh, well, I'll take that under our umbrella." So there was a clause that was strictly between us and the schools that we wouldn't do anything counterproductive for each other. So we wouldn't offer anything the school was offering, the school wouldn't offer anything that we were offering.
Okay.
So that agreement is strictly between the two entities. The Board of Selectmen also oversees the Memorandum of Understanding, but that does not affect or impact anybody else.
Okay.
Specifically for our programming, we have a very specific process for having instructors or programs or anything come in. We send out the email. I'm sure some of you might have seen our email that says, looking for instructors, teachers, everything else. A great example is that, the Council on Aging runs exercise programs and everything else. That's something that we do as well, but, that's their privy and they run those, and, at no time have we ever tried to step in and say, no, you can't do that because that's a recreation activity. Nor would we. We have tried to work very well with members of the community, partnering up with the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts, doing different events such as the egg hunt and the candy scramble that we've put together. One of the things that was listed is that in the past that we had kind of stopped a Halloween activity from happening with the PTA based off of the time that it interfered with our trunk or treat activity, of which we've talked to a couple people, and it was really just a timing issue as far as the question was asked if they could just run it an hour or two later, and that we stopped an egg hunt that was supposed to happen at a conservation property, which we don't have any privy over anyway. And then the girls' coding class, which I referenced already. So that's kind of the background, and that's why we're trying to kind of prevent this, because specifically Park and Rec is called out in this article, and it does single out our department in a bylaw that would be created for the town.
This may be a really stupid question. Is there any effort or any chance of working to make the language more palatable, to make it work for everybody? Because sort of, to me, it feels like kind of a win-win, like everybody could benefit from it, but I could be completely misreading the intention of the program.
So I don't know that answer. To my knowledge, I think our legal counsel for the town is reviewing this. I'm sure he has. But at this time, no. We discussed at the Board of Selectmen meeting. No one really knows, because it's so poorly written, how it will actually impact and what the
Couldn't it be rewritten to be better written?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know how that
So
works.
this is what's going to town meeting.
You
So-
Right. So they can't do any kind of like mitigation to like rewrite something to make it a little bit
It is
more,
what it is.
to make it more to work.
Correct.
Bureaucracy.
Who is really
Seems like-
driving?
doesn't it seem like it should be like, let's
Who's
make it
really
better?
driving this petition? The person who organized this petition, or
Marcus
Marcus
Lewis.
Lewis? Okay.
So I'll give you a copy of this. This is a copy of the website, but this is kind of the driving force. If you look at all the Facebook pictures and everything else, it was actually Marcus who got all the signatures at the dump and everywhere else. He was the one who went to the Friends Of meeting. Miss Armento and her husband didn't even sign the petition themselves. But if you look through here, there is we were actually on a clock for a while, but the clock is ticking, and all of the action that he's taken against the town to date, up until this petition was filed.
Do you happen to know the time of the year, or roughly when that petition was presented for signatures? Not when it was presented here, when they were out getting signatures. Do you know when that was?
So this has been going on for quite a while, and to my knowledge, the warrant, they were asked to put it on the fall meeting, they declined, and then they purposely waited until Springtown meeting was closed. And I believe this was brought in a couple days after our Springtown meeting, so that it would have to stand on its own. Diane Corey can speak better to the actual timeline and what was done. She's very, very knowledgeable on what the timeline for that was.
So you're not aware, and if you don't know, it's okay, but you're not aware of when Marcus Lewis was at the transfer station getting those signatures?
I'm not specifically, no. I know that he was there as recently as the Saturday before Springtown meeting.
Which was May?
Late April.
Yeah.
Late April.
So, just to step back and go a little higher up here. So, I agree that there's some wording issues in this. Could you rephrase for me what the Park and Rec objection to it is in general, outside of the wording? Right, it's basically saying that if, the way I read it, outside of the lack of legalese, it says that if you rent a property, you have, the boards have to have a policy for how they're renting the property, right? And that policy should give priority to nonprofits, right? And it also says then that you can't deny you can't deny rental of a property based on having a similar activity. Those are the 3 bullets. And what is the objection?
So the main objection was the clause that the board or committee will, with care, custody, and control of town-owned property, will grant priority, which is open for will or shall.
Yep.
The rent to nonprofit organization, and particularly encourage the use of town-owned property by community groups, and particularly those groups who serve the needs of the region. So it doesn't actually say in here that town-owned departments have priority over space.
Well, it kind
Specifically
of
what
does
we're
in that
trying
next
to.
sentence, where it says that, if, that the rentals don't have priority over school functions and things like that.
So that's the school. The school,
Right.
we all
So-
know, operates on their own.
So I think
and-
any building, no matter what, over any building, you have priority on, I mean, if the Girl Scouts wanted the Cooper room,
Yep.
right, and we were using the Cooper room for a library function,
Mhm.
we have every right to tell them no.
Yeah, we do that.
Right,
do that all the
and,
time.
and that's true of any,
All the time,
any
yeah.
building, and I don't think this can change that, right?
Well,
So-
and that's the thing, we don't know. If anybody wanted to challenge it as it's written, it's very open to interpretation. Right now, we all have very clear, policies on how we rent things and what the hierarchy is of how we do that and what the timing is and everything else. Specifically for Park and Rec, we don't have our own space. So, this is very damaging to us from the sense that if, anybody came in and said, well, we're a nonprofit or we're this, and we lost any of the space that we're using outside of those hours, specifically for, the limited amount of space that we actually do have, that would be, detrimental to us. We operate all the time where we have to cancel programs because a book fair pops up or something needs to be moved inside. Things like that happen all the time. There's a meeting that needs to take place in one of the things that we are in. So by opening this up to the broader,
Okay, so let's step back then. Let's say that you have the high school art room reserved for an art class every Monday for the school year.
Yep.
You believe this article says that someone can bump you from that reservation?
well, the
I don't
school,
read it
the
that
school
way.
can always do that.
The school,
because
the school
that's
has,
school property.
the school
right?
has proper priority
Right.
over their building, just like we could bump Girl Scouts from one of our art.
Yep.
So that doesn't change that, but do you think that that you had the art room reserved, a nonprofit could come in and say, we need the art room and kick you out because of that? I'm still trying to understand what the concern is, because if you have the room reserved, you have the room reserved, and the only the only entity that can bump you out is the entity that controls it,
Yep,
right?
correct.
So if you had the room reserved, a nonprofit can't come in and reserve the room and kick you out. They could have reserved the room first, in which case you're just late, right?
Correct.
But-
Correct.
Um,
And we, that happens now. That's how we operate right now, and that's what I like.
So again, I'm still not sure what the concern is.
The concern is that the article is poorly written.
I
and that we
understand
don't
that
want-
part, right.
Yeah, and that's really what the
Yeah.
question is.
But-
Is that, we're just asking all of the boards to vote to not support it because it's a poor article to put into our bylaws.
I understand it has legal wording issues,
Mhm.
right? But that doesn't say that you don't support the article, you just don't support the article as written, right? That's where my that's what I'm not saying I agree with you or agree with them. I'm trying to clarify what the objection to it is outside of the wording, right?
Yep.
I understand the intent of the article, and I don't understand if you're objecting to the wording of the article or the intent of the article.
So the intent of the article is in, specifically the fact that, you have an outside group who's using this to be able to get in and use town-owned property by going around, by circumnavigating the policies that we currently have in place.
How are they circumnavigating any policy?
Because they're attempting to create a bylaw that's going to possibly take control away from being able to, book it as is, as we currently have it.
See, I didn't read it that way, so that's where I'm confused.
And that's the problem. It's open to interpretation, and that's what we're saying. It depends on how you read it. And Chase brought up the same point at the Board of Selectmen meeting, that it really depends on who's reading it and how they read it.
What does this man want?
This man wants to offer free tennis in Littleton.
Okay.
So free sessions, so that then you can come to the paid programming. And that's where this all started, was we had our, if you go back a long time ago, he actually proposed to the board to disband the Park and Rec department so he could run it as a private entity, when Mr. Brian Richter was chair. Then when I actually came on board 2 years ago, he was in our office, and kind of pitched the same thing to our new board as far as he wanted to bring, free tennis to town. We told him we already had a tennis instructor who was, very good with the kids. We were happy with how Sue was running the program. We had programming, and that, we did not, Marcus wanted to come in and run tennis programs for Tiger's Den, of which that was a big, we did have kids coming from Tiger's Den to utilize our tennis program at the time.
Okay.
The board had sent Marcus away and told him if he wanted to, he could start a middle school team as a feeder program, because that was what he was citing as there was no feeder program into the tennis program.
Okay.
That did not happen, and then we got to where we are today. So really, that is kind of the background and why we are, against this article.
Okay.
So if we back
Okay.
up, why is Park and Rec opposed to Marcus Lewis operating a free tennis program?
So
If
we're
it doesn't
not-
conflict with your timing?
We're not opposed to a free tennis program. We're opposed to the idea that it's a free tennis program to get you into a paid program, and it's not being honestly stated that way.
His paid program.
Correct.
I see.
In Acton.
I see.
But what about those kids who can't afford to take classes that might be able to have an opportunity to try a sport,
Yep.
and then they like it and they have an experience, or they want to try the sport and they don't want to put all the money into the equipment and the lessons, they like it and they look at his program, they look at your program, and they say, you know what, Park and Rec has a more affordable program, I'm going to go with them, I'm not going to go with Marcus Lewis.
So I have a question for you then. So Park and Rec runs a lot of camps over the summer, like soccer camps and basketball camps.
Yep.
And if those programs came in and said, offered a free day beforehand, so you could experience the camps, you would say no.
No, absolutely not. We
Because
work
it's
with
a-
them. We partner with them.
But it's the same issue, right? You're telling one guy that he can't do a free program because
Well, we're
he's
not.
what-
We're
He
not.
wants to do a paid one, and they're offering a free one.
The
as
difference
a-
is because we contract with those other people. We
Yes,
give, and that's what I
but you're
said. We
trying to
give
get them to
everybody.
sign up for a paid program, just like he is, right? The difference is one you have a partnership with and one you don't, right?
Correct.
So you're favoring one entity over another.
Because that entity is coming through our, like you said, we all have a list of rules and procedures that we go through. And ours is submit your proposal. We vet the proposals according to the three-prong rule under the Massachusetts general law as far as employee versus a provider. And then based off of that, we offer a contract out to do that programming. So in that time, we've never received any proposals for classes. It's just been trying to circumnavigate the entire process.
I don't have a problem with, so if Title Boxing wanted to come in and offer a free day,
Yep, we work with Title Boxing.
so you offer programs and they're a partner with you, right? So pick another entity that doesn't. If they want to come in and offer a free program, you say no.
No, we would, have them come in and we would see what their, was about. So for instance, we just offered a free tennis jamboree with New England Tennis and our instructor. So the kids came, they got a free racket, they got a free t-shirt, they got a free sleeve of balls, they got an hour of programming.
And the difference is that they have a
That Kevin reached
contractual
out to us.
relationship.
That
with
Kevin
you.
reached out to us and said this is something he wanted to do, and we worked through the process, and we have a relationship with them through that.
Meaning that he's renting the space for other programs?
No, they're not renting any space. So how we do our contracts is it's generally an 80-20 split or some thing. So they get 80% of the profit. We take 20 for administrative costs and everything else. And that helps us kind of keep the cost of the programming down for the town.
Right. So the difference is that you're getting a cut of whatever he makes, and you're not getting a cut of whatever Marcus Lewis would make off the program.
Correct.
That's the difference between the two. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
What other boards have you been to, and what positions have they taken?
So Board of Selectmen, we were there on Monday night, and they voted not to support unanimously. Mike Prue is at the school board right now. I'm going to meet him as soon as I'm done here at the library. And then the Council on Aging, we're going to go speak with them as well. We were invited to come up there after a number of them came and supported us at the Board of Selectmen meeting the other evening. And I'll be talking to Conservation on June 17th, I believe.
All right, you're at COA this coming Monday, or whenever the next meeting is?
Yeah, I need to figure that out. Liz was at a conference today, so I spoke to Miss Levine earlier.
Okay.
So what does the board want to do? Do they
I don't
take a
have.
position, not take a position?
I don't have any more questions than I.
More questions? I'm open to whatever.
I don't care for the way it was written. And we've just gone through a town meeting where one article was removed because it was poorly written. Okay? And I don't need to see an article go in that is ambiguous at best, or can be read two ways. So I just on the basis of the way it's written, I would be against it. That's my opinion.
And if it gets pulled because it's poorly written, and this is the only reason we're having a special town meeting?
That's correct.
Yep.
Good heavens.
They purposely waited and missed Springtown meetings so that.
That town meeting cost $10,000.
So this is gonna cost money too.
It already
Yes.
is. You'll have the books in your mailboxes tomorrow. They went to print yesterday.
Good heavens.
Books.
Your warrant books.
Oh, yeah.
So the big thing, this is something that's driven by an out-of-town businessman who doesn't pay taxes here, who's trying to change our bylaws.
I've read, is anybody else with his website?
To me, the process is, regardless of how people feel about the person in question, the process was managed, they went through the correct process.
Correct.
So that's not the issue, right? They went through the town resident created the petition, they got so that piece is correct. So I know we're judging the people in question, but I feel like that part is correct. The frustrating part to me is that there's no way to turn around and say, okay, this is poorly written, can we write it better? That would, as a writer, that's the piece that really pisses me off. Like, can't we write this in a better way that makes it,
No, he hasn't.
but you can't, I know, I understand why you can't, but it's just,
It's a general
so
problem with citizens
frustrating.
petitions, right?
Yes, it is.
That citizens petitions aren't, they're never given town council help
Right, yeah.
on writing the
Yeah.
thing. So they all end up being rejected by town council for some reason, or said, well, this isn't correct wording. And all of the problems could have been solved just by allowing town
And save
council
money
to
for the
help.
town.
Yes, help on that front, right? So
Town council's looking at this?
Yes.
Has town council hasn't
town council
weighed
will
They
in?
not
won't
say
rewrite, they
anything
can't
until
rewrite
town
it,
meeting.
yeah.
Oh,
they can't
That's what
rewrite
they
it.
always do.
Okay.
Let me ask you again. You said that they purposely held this back at the spring town meeting so that it would go,
How do we know that?
special.
To my knowledge, it was, and that's why I said, please check with Clerk Roy, but.
I will.
Well, how would she know? that
And that's
it's
why,
perfect? So
that's
you
why I
know that.
asked you specifically if you knew when that petition was presented at the transfer station for signatures.
Correct.
Because I remember it, and I have a pretty poor memory, but I remember it being pretty darn cold,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking it was almost winter time.
Well, they were at the Market Basket on the same day of the Holiday Bazaar. That was the first time that I was aware
That
of
was
it.
in December.
Correct. Yeah, because I left the Holiday Bazaar to go pick up lunch for
So,
everybody, and they were at Market Basket.
okay, so that means that it could have been presented as a citizen's petition, which would have had to go on the town meeting that was in May. Because if you present one with that many signatures, it would have to be in there.
Well, you don't know when they collected the requisite number of signatures. You know when they started, you don't know when they finished.
Right.
That's why I'm
That's the
asking,
problem.
that's why I'm
Yeah,
asking when it
yeah.
was.
So if he was at the transfer station in April, he obviously didn't have
It was
enough
too late.
signatures in time to get it done by, they would have to have it done in
Right.
February. So, we don't know when, I mean, it's quite possible they held it back. I have no knowledge one way or another, right? It's just kind of hearsay at this point.
Correct. Yep.
I
Have you
don't
read the
think we should.
website?
I read the website a couple years ago when this issue came up.
Yeah, I just went and read the whole thing on the weekend. Okay, and I didn't really care much for the tone of it. Okay, it was like in your face, which, okay, I get that part, okay, but seeing the article the way it's written, I don't care for that. And I don't think we should be, you know, we could render no opinion, but I would be really, if we said we were in favor of it, I don't know what I'd do, but.
Well, so there's a couple different points here, right? One is, you can, at this meeting, you're voting whether the library, as a library, votes to support it. Whether you personally support it or not is something else,
That's
right?
correct.
So, right now, we have to decide as a library board whether you support it or not. And that might not be the same answer as whether you support it on the town meeting
That's
floor.
absolutely true,
So I'm just throwing that out there, because I don't get a vote one way or another, and I don't get to make a motion one way or another, so I'm off the hook, it's you guys that have to.
Thank
I don't
you,
have to
Mark.
state my opinion.
Well, I would like to make a motion then that we do not give approval to this.
So are we saying we're supporting or not supporting the proposal, or supporting or not supporting PRCE? Like what's
would say-
I
the
don't think, I think this has been,
You're saying whether or not you support the warrant article.
warrant? Okay.
Correct. That's what we're asking, is for all the boards
so
to either
I'll
not.
make a motion that we do
Because
not.
I'm taking the minutes, I wanna make sure I have clarity on that.
Yes.
So I'm making a motion that we do not support the article that's been presented for the town meeting on June 26th.
Sixth,
Okay.
a Wednesday
Okay,
night.
I'm sorry, David, slow down, say it again.
Make a
Does
motion
not
that
support,
Mhm.
Do we not support the article that has been presented to the town by citizens petition for, as an article in town, special town meeting of June 26th?
You got it?
Mhm.
got it.
Did someone want to second
I'll second that.
it? Is there any further discussion on it?
Gotta do an all in favor.
Okay.
So an all in favor would be that we do not support it,
We do not support the meeting, the warrant article.
right? The warrant, so you would say yes when you're.
We're opposing the article.
Right.
That means that's a yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank
time
you
this
for coming.
evening. We'll see you at third Thursday for the library again?
Yes,
See you
yes.
away whenever you're going.
Yes, I will talk to
Yeah.
Liz tomorrow and we'll.
Because whenever our next meeting is, I'm the trustee there too.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you,
you.
Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Have a good evening. You as well. Treasurer's report. Okay, you've all received the latest Bartholomew, and for our balances, MMDT is $1,228.84.
What is it? Sorry.
$1,228.84.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
And the building fund is $357,359.81.
357, 359.81.
Correct.
That's the building fund.
Mhm.
You have the new Bartholomew in front of you.
So,
Long day.
there's 15 and change in that building fund. Do we want to keep writing it in the market, or do we want to move it over to the MMDT building fund? And do we want to, do we want to, 404?
Oh, 404.
It is only down $1,000. So we can either write it out, or we can move it, or,
Okay, so,
Depends on the tariff in Mexico.
yeah. So
Well-
I'm not suggesting we have to move it, I'm saying we can move it, right?
generally speaking, they say, in the world of finance and all that stuff, which I'm not up on it, but, don't get all upset over it.
No.
No.
But that building fund is part of our, that's part of the fundraising. So at some point, we should move it over. We can choose to move it now, or we can choose to, do it, July or August, July or September at one of our next meetings.
So, but it may be down again, right, is what you're saying?
Yes, you don't know which way it's gonna go.
No.
So at some point, we should move it. It doesn't have to be today, but we should keep an eye on it and
Well-
decide when we wanna move it.
Yeah, but if, this is monthly, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's $1,000 in a month,
No, it's,
Years of date, I think, usually.
554.
it's down $500 for the year, I think, and $1,000 since it started.
Well, that's not a good trajectory.
Yeah, that's not the
And
direction you're supposed to
I'm
be
not
going
gonna
in.
balance my checkbook, but I know that.
Well, you don't know what the trajectory is. You just know
I don't like
you
the
don't
way
know
it
that it went
looks.
down further than that and bounced back.
That's the reason I don't play the stock market.
So,
Well, I'm not a financial whiz, but if we're worried about losing more, another 500 in another month, maybe we should move it out. Or maybe not.
We know it's gotta go there.
okay, so,
Okay, are there any other funds? I meant to talk about this under other business, so if you went to that, I was just gonna ask if there's any other, just to be everybody's on the same page. We have the MMDT and then the building fund and then this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there anything else anywhere else that we would count as some of our funds that we're using for?
friends. For the building, or in general? Are you talking operational or building?
Well, what do you got?
Well, there's gift funds that come into a town account,
Yep.
and there's state aid funds that come into a town account that are used for, those are used for operational expenses.
Okay.
For building a fund, there is nothing other than whatever the Friends have in their fund that hasn't been transferred yet.
Right, and then this, okay,
And
now,
then
when,
this.
so when the Friends transfer, does it go here?
It goes in MMDT.
So it would bypass this?
Yes. So this building fund is basically stock donations that we've had in and haven't transferred out.
Okay.
So Steve in the past has asked us, that when we get a stock donation, that we leave it in there for some period of time that was ill-defined. Basically, so that Bartholomew feels good about taking the stock for us.
Okay.
Before we move it out.
Well, I would suggest if we did move some, that we leave something in there so it doesn't zero out the fund.
Why? It doesn't matter if it zeroes out the fund.
Doesn't matter?
No, there's other funds that are zeroed out. right
See
above.
that, yep.
So those other funds that were zeroed out above were the ones that we already moved. And those are the funds that started MMDT.
402 and 403.
402 and
Yeah.
403 started
Yeah.
the MMDT.
Right.
So if people don't want to move it now, I'm fine with revisiting it in July. And we can decide whether it's, we can wait till it breaks even or hope it doesn't lose a lot more. Or we can let it ride for probably a few years, actually, before they need all of that money.
But if we put into the building fund, how safe is it there?
That's in cash. That's basically a seed.
That's cash.
It's a money market account, so it's not gonna go, it's gonna go up very slowly,
but not down.
but not down.
All right,
Let's
So-
move it.
let's move it.
Let's move it.
Okay.
So you gonna make a motion to do that?
Do I have to do that?
Someone needs to.
All right, I'll make a motion. I would make a motion that we move the funds in Building Fund 404 in the amount of
Or you
$15,400.
don't- Just move the balance up.
The
Balance
yeah, the
of.
balance of,
Okay,
yeah.
move the balance of the Building Fund, account number 404, from 404 to the Building Fund,
To the MMDT.
MMDT Building Fund.
Did you get that? MMDT.
How much are we moving?
The balance.
balance.
Okay.
Well, it could change.
That's the number at the moment.
15,000. I thought I heard somebody say something about 15,000.
Yeah, but see, that might not be
But
the
that might
balance.
not
It
be
might
exactly,
change.
which is
Sure,
why,
right.
why
I
he's
got it.
saying the
That's why we're saying
balance,
balance.
yeah.
Okay, all right, that's fine, I got it.
And I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that is from 404 Building Fund to MMTT Building Fund.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the treasurer's report? Okay, Friends report.
I can remember what happened.
I was there too.
Yeah. Come on, Mark.
Dick
You're
was there too.
the trustee.
How's that?
We were both at the last Friends meeting.
Wow. I said I had a program.
They were preparing for the book sale at the time, right? And it hadn't happened yet.
Yes.
Do you know how much they made from the book sale since then?
I want to say it was between $1,500 and $2,000, but I'm not sure
Yeah, it's
exactly.
something like
The townwide yard sale is next
June.
weekend,
It's the
June
15th.
15th.
Same
Um,
day as Zero Waste Day, same
Yeah.
day as recycling electronic goods at the Baptist Church, and the same day as something else I just heard about.
And they talked about the vote effort.
And going to Third Thursday.
Going to Third Thursday, get out to vote for
Right.
October.
Mhm.
Right. I think that's it. I can't remember anything else.
Membership was down or flat, I think.
Right.
And their contributions are down or flat because people are giving to the building fund more than to the Friends at this point.
Mhm.
And so
Okay.
that's the extent of from other meetings.
Yes.
It should be noted about the book sale that the Friends donated their children's books after the sale to Shaker Lane for their book swap,
Oh,
which is
good.
happening tomorrow.
Nice.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
They also, before the book sale, someone came in and Jeremy, took a bunch of books
Oh, yeah.
to sell on Amazon, so they'll make money off of that still.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Fundraising.
So we discussed writing letters to the editor. They've asked me to write one. They asked we asked the local community group, our writing group, to do it. They're asking some members of the community to do it, and we're going to start submitting those letters over the summer.
Like July, I think she said
Right.
July.
I heard that the Independent got sold. Do you know
It's
if
combining with Westford and Chelmsford.
Yeah, so I don't know if
Oh,
that's going to
It's gonna be the Eagle
Oh.
Independent.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That
As
means
of,
even
like-
more Westford news.
As of like
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. But it's true.
Yeah,
Oh,
we don't really
sugar.
have a town paper anymore.
Oh.
I ended my subscription, now I feel good about it.
Yeah, I ended mine too.
I renewed mine, so they quit sending it
That's
to
why
me.
they're combining.
What?
I paid my subscription and then I quit getting the paper.
Okay.
So I emailed them and said, oh, you need to call us, so I haven't done that yet.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so they talked about the possibility of doing an event at Tavern in the Square, but I think they're still working on that.
I think that fell through because of
Yeah.
timing.
So
Yeah.
here's
They're
the
still
deal
looking at
with
it.
Tavern. Because we did one for our Polar Plunge. And one has to be just, you can't, they won't call you back. Just so you know. You gotta walk in all the time,
Okay.
grab the manager. because it is always a win-win for them, always. And we made a ton of money that night. The place was packed. There was a waiting line to get in. They'll be happy to do it, but you've got to nab them. It's not going to phone you back. It just doesn't happen.
Let's see.
Interesting.
We talked about possibly creating a brochure about the project now that we're getting closer and the design is getting closer to being completed. And Katrina, her daughter would like to do a readathon event in combination with Diane, where she would get basically sponsored for every 20 minutes that she reads during summer reading. And she's trying to get other kids to do that with her.
I think Katrina sent an email that's a go. I think
Yeah,
I
okay.
think they
Okay, great.
must have had the conversation.
And one of the banks in town, I think, was sponsoring something like that too, that if you were a member of the bank and you,
Yeah.
I forget which bank it was now.
Main Street Bank.
Main Street.
Main Street.
If you
okay.
read some, I think 10 books, they will give you $10 when you open the account in the name of like a child.
Oh,
Is this the one that's at Dunkin' Donuts?
yes,
It used to be North Middlesex.
yeah.
Okay.
And the next meeting will be June 17th at 7 p.m. in the Cooper Room.
That's fundraising.
Yes, fundraising, public awareness.
Trustee updates. You go first, Demetra?
I have none.
Oh.
Oh, my turn. All right, let's see, I've been going to third Thursdays. I haven't stayed through, but I go down and set up and I go down and I tear it down and move all the
Thank you
stuff.
for doing that, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
Not a
big.
problem,
That's
except in June, my brother's coming up from Florida on third Thursday, and I'm gonna be engaged in some really, just all kinds of stuff. So I volunteered to 10, okay?
Okay.
And maybe I can get it there, or I can give it to somebody else to bring it down. But that's all I can do for that day.
Okay.
You can have the 10, but somebody else is gonna have to open it up.
Okay, we'll work it out.
Transport it.
Okay. Anything else?
I am hoping to be at third Thursday. Last time we had a meeting, I went to third Thursday after this. Was able to talk to somebody who was trying to ask questions about the building, and I could update people who were there. We had the meeting on the 28th, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so at that design meeting, we decided that there would be another one to talk about the outside.
Yes.
Do we have that date?
We do not have that
Yeah,
date
I
yet.
have to speak to the architect and find out when he's available.
Because that would be nice to get out, and would be nice to have for the third Thursday to be able to say, please come to this.
I'll do that in the break.
Okay. And I was very pleased to see when I was in the library the other day, our scholarship intern working.
Yes.
I saw her twice.
Oh! See, you did have something to share. So I thought that that was a really good, interesting design meeting, and I'm interested in seeing what else they've got.
Okay.
I don't really have anything different. I was at the part of the third Thursday the last time as well, but there was a million things going on that night, and I was running from place to place.
Mhm.
So I plan on being. I did tell the friends, Sarah and Katrina, and someone else was on that list, that I would be at all of the rest of them. That's on my calendar for all the rest of them. But the other thing wanted to do, and I just thought of this, and is it okay to give a shout out to one of our staff members? Jen Hamilton got her library science degree, I believe, from
Science.
Simmons.
Yay.
So just a shout out to her.
That's
It's really an
fabulous.
awesome
Awesome.
thing. So
That's a big deal.
if she's listening, I know I think she's there. I think she's working tonight. So if she's listening, congratulations.
That doesn't stop
Okay.
Do you want to talk about the design meeting somewhere else, or? we'll-
Yeah, I was gonna put it in there, but if you want.
Okay, so, well, I won't steal that. I met with Conservation Commission on Monday to go over basically the site plan, who asked me a bunch of questions where I basically said, I don't know. And they were nice enough that they took great minutes and forwarded them off to me, and I forwarded them all off to Sam and Phil.
Good.
There's a few concerns about the site. We need to work on the road mainly, on what the requirements are for the fire department on the road. That's the biggest
Yeah.
concern conservation has. They had some questions about whether the building could be shifted towards the, away from the ball field, basically to try and take down fewer trees or knock out more invasives or some other questions, I don't know. I
That's
think
gonna be-
that ends up shifting it more towards the wetlands, so I
Yeah.
don't think that necessarily works, but
I
most
think-
of their other questions, basically they said, don't delay on coming back, so that, because it takes a while to get permits.
Right.
And they were asking questions about like where the building in the slope on the survey and things
Mhm.
that, I didn't have access to at the time, so I should have sent Sam to the meeting, because he knew all those answers, so.
Okay, then.
um,
Yeah, no, that plan that they showed with all the lines of the wetlands and all that stuff, it looked like it was pretty, you really didn't have a lot of wiggle room there. Yeah. So I thought,
They had a lot of concerns about, how you're keeping construction stuff out of the
Mhm.
wetlands.
Yep,
Where
yep.
are you stacking dirt, and how much dirt are you moving, and,
Yep.
where are you putting retention basins?
all
and
good questions.
All good questions that no one knows the answers to, because they're not at that stage of development yet.
All right.
So, that's all I have. Okay,
Okay.
director's report.
Okay, we purchased 2 new benches and some flower pots for the back entrance.
And they look nice.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all thanks to Ms. Helen over here. And George, he put the benches together, so nobody kills himself if I put them together. Yeah, so that's the last of the fiscal year 19 furniture money budget funds, so that's where that went. I almost completed staff evaluations. I still have 2 more staff members to do tomorrow, but everybody's gotten a great review. I worked with them on their goals, some of them. So I asked everyone this year to do something a little bit different, because they were tired of trying to come up with goals every single year. So they came up with one and I came up with one. Some of them came up with multiple ones, so if theirs sounded better than mine, I let them do it both theirs. Yeah, but everybody's doing great, and they're all gonna get a step increase or a cost of living increase. Jeff and Jen haven't been there quite a year yet, and if you're not there a whole year, you can't get a step increase, but they're getting cost of living increases. There have been 8 informational and design workshop meetings over the past 2-3 months. It all went really well.
Did you read all those?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the architect came to pretty much all of them except one, and we got a lot of great input from the public. I think the plans change like every meeting. Yeah, these are the most recent plans, if you guys want to take a look at them.
Yeah.
So far, I think we've got most of the schematic design done. We're just, like Susan said, we're gonna try to have another meeting to go over the exterior. We spoke with MBLC at our last meeting, and she had some notes that Phil addressed, both in the design, or that he kind of helped her to understand why we decided to go that way, and she seemed okay with them. So, yeah, everything's so far going well. As far as schematic design goes, the next phase is development design, which we hope to be in by the end of the month.
So we meet with Phil on Tuesday
Tuesday.
evening.
Yeah.
And we'll more or less finalize the interior of the,
Yeah.
yeah. So after that point on Tuesday, should be no major modifications to the building. Things like, can you move the door from here to here can still happen, but the rooms will
Right.
more or less
Right.
be fixed.
Yeah.
And then we'll schedule something for the exterior of the building more towards mid-July, probably. Mid-June.
I think he said he needed by the end of
Yeah.
this month.
Yeah, so
I
late
forget,
June,
okay,
yeah,
late June or late
yeah.
July.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
July 3rd ought to be a good date.
So, yeah,
Prefer
so.
the 5th.
So we're gonna meet, like Mark said, we're gonna meet on June 11th, and then he wants to meet about every 2 weeks after that, moving forward.
Okay.
Summer reading.
Yes, summer reading sign-ups begin on June 17th. The theme is a universe of stories. So we have a lot of great space-themed programs planned for the kids, teens, and adults. You can look on the website for more information.
I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Are you going to do an event with your telescope?
With our telescope.
So where kids can come to the event, look through the telescope, and I don't know if there's, you know, it's a really good day to see Mercury or Venus that day, or
I don't think we planned on it, but
Oh, what a good idea.
it is a good idea. We are going to have there are these two guys that teach sword fighting, and they're going to do a lightsaber
That's fun.
tutorial, and the kids can come up and they have to sign a waiver. It's
Yeah.
foam lightsabers.
Yeah,
But,
okay,
They'll
yeah.
get to do that. But no, we hadn't thought about the telescope, but that's a good idea.
There's also two large, I mean, you can partner with something like Haystack, or there's an observatory in Harvard that you could get to sponsor a program with.
We'll be all over that.
I met with the new town administrator yesterday and gave her an update on the project, where we're at. She was impressed by how much we've done so far, and she said to continue to keep her updated. Tori has returned to complete her scholarship hours. She said that she was ill and unfortunately couldn't, that's why she couldn't make it. So the plan is that she'll work with Andy on Monday doing shelving. Tuesday and Wednesday she's going to help Diane with summer reading.
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday she's going to help me with my inventory project of the collection.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, and she's going to try to get as much done by July 30th as she can.
Perfect.
Let's see. And at the last MVLC directors meeting, I was made vice president of MVLC.
Oh,
And I'm going to be president.
Congratulations or condolences?
Yeah.
When they voted, one of the director of Grounding said, I'll vote for Sam, but I think he's nuts.
Ooh.
Is that because you were running for it, or did you say that generally?
Generally, yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and so as far as material spending, we're pretty much done. We still have money in gift and state to take care of some of the lingering stuff, but we met the MARA a long time ago, so we're good with that. And the salary budget is fine. We only have about 1 or 2 more pay periods left, and that's plenty of money to cover it.
Okay. So on the stats, I noticed the back door is getting far more use than the front door. Is that seems to be generally true now? It's like
Well, that's where the parking is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
like
part.
3.5, 4 times the amount of use now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I noticed that Andy's blowing away the other notaries. Is she
Yeah.
seeking these out, or
Yeah. I think so. I think she's calling people in.
Okay.
You had said a couple months ago that the library is probably going to get rid of Libby. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, they haven't decided yet exactly, but yeah, we're probably getting rid of it.
But keeping over Libby,
It's an app.
Oh, okay.
keeping Overdrive though?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Overdrive stays. It's just how you access it. It's gonna
Okay.
change.
Those are those things I don't understand. Okay.
So it's interesting that attendance is down, but circulation is up. Okay. Any other questions to Sam? Okay. Old business. There's nothing there. Is that true? Okay, new business, payroll authorization.
So the last time you guys voted for an invoice authorization, and then Michelle sent me an email, did you guys vote for payroll authorization? And that was a big fat no. So, yeah, so you guys need to vote for how many signatures you want on the payroll and who are the authorized signatures from the staff.
I thought we talked about that.
Yeah, it was invoices
We
last
talked
time.
about it, but we
Yeah.
didn't
Oh.
But
So
not
it's yours
payroll.
plus
Oh,
2.
got it, sorry.
Yeah,
That's what we're looking for.
it's me, Helen, or Diane, and then it's 2 trustees. Yeah. So basically, like what you did for the
It was-
invoice,
was
but for
Tina?
payroll.
Same thing, but
What
different.
is
No,
it?
you just need 2 trustee signatures for payroll.
So why are we asking for another vote?
You have to, no, not another
We have
vote.
to do
Every
that.
year you have to renew
Yeah.
the same, say the same
Oh,
thing.
They want us to vote again?
Right.
Mhm.
It's a yearly thing.
Does anybody have a problem with keeping the payroll signatures to 2 trustee signatures?
I think it should be consistent with
Yeah.
I want to vote to increase the term on it.
Read it straight there.
That's why I don't have to do it every year.
Okay.
Exchange it from Ed.
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh,
Susan was gonna make the
No,
motion.
he was gonna have me do it, it's fine.
Oh, no, you do it.
I'm really
If
good at
Mark has
seconding.
specific wording, he
No,
thinks
it's
you
just the
should.
exact same motion.
Oh,
as we
yeah,
had.
yeah, do that, that's
Okay,
great.
okay, so I make a motion that the trustees vote to approve okay, I make a motion that the trustees vote to approve 2 trustees' signatures on the payroll packets, and that Mr. Alvarez and Ms. Graham and Ms. Haddock remain administrators of those invoice packets.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, other business?
I have one thing. And I note that our friendly scribe, Henry Crystal, is absent until July. Is somebody going to tell him we're not meeting on the first Thursday?
I'll tell
Okay.
him.
Tell him what day that is. I just, have that.
So I haven't heard, the reason I haven't done it yet is because I asked Diane Curry if we could have the July 25th,
Yeah,
but she hasn't responded yet.
okay. I guess we need to know that first, yes. All right,
Okay,
cool.
anything else?
Nada.
Wanna make another motion?
Oh, sugar. Do I make a motion to adjourn this meeting? I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.